Welcome to Her Life Unscripted podcast, inspiring burnt out, stressed out, and stretched thin women to embrace the unscriptedness of life. Hosted by Anna Osborne.
Hello, lovely ladies, and welcome to Her Life Unscripted, episode 65. It is so wonderful to be here with all of you today. I am your host, Anna Osborne, and I am just enjoying this month of July. We just celebrated the 4th of July a few weeks ago. And honestly, next to Thanksgiving, the 4th of July is my favorite holiday. And it's just really, really fun to be able to spend that time with friends. Growing up, we always did there was a big parade and kind of a festival in the next town over that we used to always go to as kids. And, we get cotton candy and they do a big, a 5K and a parade and marching bands. And it was just this really fun day with my family. And then once I got a little bit older and lived closer to my family up here in Northern California, my grandparents and aunts and uncles, I would always spend 4th of July with my grandma and all of my aunts and uncles and cousins. And so 4th of July has always been a holiday that I've really connected with, just a lot of fun and just laughter and just eating and all those fun things. And then once I got married and my grandmother passed away, we kind of didn't have plans for 4th of July. And so there was a couple lonely, sad 4th of Julys there. And over the last few years, we've been kind of taken in by my very good girlfriend and her family. And so now the last 3 years, we've been included in their family celebration. And I'm just so grateful to be able to have that same kind of family experience, to be able to continue the 4th of July celebration and really see my kids enjoying that too. So even though my daughter was not a fan of the fireworks this year, we had a great time. And I'm just excited to be here with all of you, slowing down and connecting. I am also in the process of moving my office. I think I shared with all of you guys that my office space got sold, my office building. And so I have the privilege of moving during the summer, right? Isn't that what we all want to do? I swear it takes me back to my college days of moving out of apartments the end of May, Memorial Day weekend, going home for a few months and then moving back into apartments in August and just the heat of it all. So hopefully we will find an office space here in the next week or two. We are kind of getting close to the wire and have not found the perfect place yet. And so realizing that we're not going to find the perfect place, right? We're going to find the place that is the right fit for right now and just really being able to accept it. And so that has been a challenge, but it's also one that I am optimistic we will find the place that is the right fit for us. So sending positive vibes and good prayers would be very, very much appreciated right now. So I think that's it for me for what's going on. Oh, also I spoke with Mari earlier this week and I think we're down to our last 10 slots available for the Shine Retreat. So if you are interested in this amazing retreat that we are hosting down in Laguna Beach in September 29th through October 1st. We would so love to have you there. And like I said, we've got, I think, 10 spots left, if not a few less. So I definitely encourage you guys to sign up and be part of this amazing, restorative, connective weekend because we are just so looking forward to it. And it's going to be just simply amazing. So that is where we are at. You can check out more information at shineretreatforwomen.com, or you're always welcome to email Mari or myself to info@shineretreatforwomen.com. So that is what we've got going on. And I want to kind of dive into our topic. As all of you know, here at Her Life Unscripted, we spend a month really diving into different theme, or I guess the same theme throughout the month, but different ways of looking at it. And so in the month of July, of course, we're talking about freedom and what we need to be released from kind of in this 4th of July spirit. And I am realizing even in sitting and talking with you guys all right now, the expectations that are kind of swirling around in my head and also in my language And that's really what we're talking about today, is this idea of being released from or finding freedom from expectations. And the thing that kind of clued me in when we were talking is this idea of finding the perfect office space, right? Right now, I am in an office space that my business partner and I have worked our butts off to make just absolutely beautiful. And it's not perfect, but it's beautiful. And we have put a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears into just really making it feel like a safe space for the people that we work with. And it's just been really, there's been ups and downs, but it's been really amazing these last couple of years being there. And so having to move unexpectedly has been burdensome in ways because we weren't expecting it, right? Hello, there's an expectation. And in the last literally 5 weeks that we've been looking at office spaces, nothing has met our expectations. And so there's been kind of the idea that I've been telling my business partner of, I don't want to move. And that's what I've decided. And she's kind of laughed at me saying, yeah, that's not an option, right? Like, we have to move. The office building has been sold and we are being told to move. And I realize that, but it's hard to wrap my head around because what I'm finding out there is not what I want and my expectations are not being met. And it's almost becoming this kind of bordering on perfectionism, right? I need it to look like this or be like this because I want it to be just right. And unfortunately, that's not what's happening. And so I'm kind of faced with this crossroads, right? Do I lower my expectations, which it kind of drives me crazy when people say that, and I'll explain why. Or do I adjust my expectations to meet what will be achievable, right? And so I'm leaning towards the other one because I really feel like when people talk about this idea of, well, I'm just going to lower my expectations and just expect less of people, it really starts to kind of irritate me because I don't believe that we should expect less of people. I feel like we should expect them to be who they are. And that can be a really beautiful thing. It can be different than how we are, but that doesn't mean that what they're doing is wrong or bad or that they're failing or that we somehow should look down upon them or look at them as less than. And so when somebody says, well, I'm just going to adjust my expectations, I'm going to lower them because clearly nobody can meet them. Really, to me, it's thinking of, well, how are you looking at people, right? Are you looking at them as human beings, or are you looking at them as these like perfect, majestic creatures? And so if we have an expectation of perfection on others, then not only do you need to kind of adjust those expectations, you need to enter some reality into them. But there's this shaming component that comes up when we say, well, you just can't meet my expectations, so I guess I have to lower them. It's really from this place of almost like disdain or judgment. And so that's kind of the place of looking at it. I really don't want to lower my expectations, but I think I need to adjust them to realize that I'm looking at my office currently as something that isn't stressful, right? I walk in there and it's zen, right? And everything else I'm looking at, I have to look through the eyes of some work. Right? Everything is going to take me some effort to do because I have to put that energy into it to make it meet what I'm wanting it to be. And so it's not lowering my expectations. It's being able to look through a reality lens and realize that I need to visualize what it will become, not what it is right now. And so when it comes to expectations, it really is looking at what it can be, not what it should be. And I think that's a huge, huge important distinction when we're talking about expectations. Looking at what it can be, not what it should be. Because when we look at what it should be, we place this perfection thing on it, which to me, perfectionism is just, a hamster wheel that we need to all get off of. So anyways, we're clearly in the topic, but that's what we're talking about today is being free of expectations. And so, if we look at expectations, they really are this belief that someone will or someone should achieve something, right? And so again, there's that should on it. It's supposed to be this way, so it must. Rather than I'm hoping it's this way, but can it really be given the circumstances of the situation, given, the ability of who you are and who someone else is? Should it or can it? And that really is a big, big difference. One thing I found kind of in my research as I was looking into this topic is that the word expectation actually comes from the Latin root of an awaiting. And I think that if we really get down to the root of this word, we really do, expectations really has this element of just awaiting to see what will happen, which to me sounds like a fancy way of saying, I'm awaiting to see whether or not you will succeed or fail. I am awaiting to see whether or not judgment needs to be passed of how it should have been. I am awaiting whether to see I approve or disapprove. I am awaiting to see whether or not I am disappointed or I am relieved. And if we really look at expectations through that lens, realizing that when we are awaiting, oftentimes we are waiting for something that is not going to happen. And if we have placed our expectation on something, if we are waiting for something to pan out the way that we believe it should, oftentimes we can walk away with a sense of unfairness, a sense of injustice, a sense of it wasn't supposed to be like that, and therefore I'm disappointed, I'm disgruntled, I'm disheartened. And the problem is we've never communicated that expectation. We have placed a judgment on it that is waiting to be hammered down. One thing that I've learned through Brené Brown's work, and I think she speaks about it in Rising Strong, I think that's where she talks about it, is this idea of expectations in our relationships. And she talks about it in terms of kind of interpersonal relationships, but I feel it really applies to relationship with self also. But that majority of our expectations are not verbalized. They are internally placed and really cemented in at a level that we're not even aware it's occurring. And so what happens is we place this expectation on somebody, ourselves, right? But we never let them know it's there. And so when they don't meet our expectation, oh my goodness, the sky starts to crumble, right? But we've never told them what our expectation is. Or even worse, we place an expectation on ourselves and we never let ourselves know that that's the bar we are holding ourselves to. That's the standard we are expecting ourselves to meet. And so during this month, as we're talking about being free from expectations, right? There's a couple key things that have to happen in order to be free from them. One, we have to be aware that we're doing it. Awareness is absolutely key when we walk into a situation to know what our expectations are. And one of the things that Brené Brown talks about that I feel like is really important is, she talked about even in this very simple sort of scenario, we're going into a vacation with her partner and asking her husband, like, what is your expectation of this vacation? And his response was something like, I want to explore this and hike here and do this and do that. And then he asked her the same question and she said, I just really want to sit and read my book. And I think that that's really, really an important conversation to have, right? It sounds very simple, but my husband and I, when we went on our honeymoon, I like to bring 3 or 4 books on vacation. I may not read them all. I may take naps and lay by the pool or walk on the beach, but I like to bring lots of books. My husband, he loves to explore. He wants to do an excursion. He wants to go fishing. He wants to explore town. And I'm perfectly content sitting and reading a book the entire time. So we showed up at our honeymoon and holy smokes, do we have different expectations. I pull out all these books and he's like, what's going on? Like, we've got a whole town to explore. And we learned very, very quickly that we vacation differently. And so we actually have gotten to the point now where we will talk at the beginning, okay, what is your expectation of this weekend? What is your expectation of this family trip? So that we both go in and we're able to manage those expectations differently. But I think the thing that's so key with it is not only this practice of being able to do that with our family, our partner, our friends, but what if we got into the practice of doing that ourselves? What if we got into the practice of literally verbalizing our expectations to ourselves? Amazing things would happen, right? We would start being free from these bars or these parameters that we're placing ourselves because we're actually verbalizing them. We're creating a level of an awareness around what we are demanding of ourselves. And because we're creating that level of awareness, we can manage them and start to ask whether or not they are realistic. I do this all the time when it comes to my time. I am horrible at estimating how much time something will take. I'm horrible at it, right? And when I'm home with my kids, will oftentimes have to return an email, return a phone call, right? Business doesn't stop just because it's a day that I am home parenting. And as much as I'd like to say, oh my goodness, every day I'm home with my kids, I never touch my computer. Well, that's not the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. I do touch my computer, right? I'm running a business and it doesn't work just to take, every other day off from it, as much as that would sound ideal. And so what I found the other day is my kids, we were playing and we were kind of hanging out. And I said, I've got to hop on the computer. I have a couple emails to send, and then let's do X, Y, and Z. I don't know, let's play a game or something. And so they both were cool with it. Well, they came in after, about 10 minutes. Hey, Mom, are you ready? I said, no, I need about 5 more minutes. And they came in 2 to 3 more times asking, and I kept saying 5 minutes more, 5 minutes more. And I didn't realize, first of all, that I had completely underestimated how much time it was going to take me to do the task I needed to do. But the part that was hard is I kept telling them 5 minutes more, 5 minutes more. And after the third time, my son got kind of annoyed. And he was like, it was okay what he said. He said, Mom, you keep saying 5 minutes more, but it's not. And it was kind of a punch in the gut, right? Because I'm going, oh my gosh, I am absolutely setting an expectation that I cannot meet for myself or for my kids. And so I stopped. I said, you know what, bud, you are totally right. I keep telling you 5 minutes more, 5 minutes more, and that's not fair. This is taking me longer than I thought. Let me go ahead and set a timer, and if I'm not done by then, we'll jump into what I said we were going to do. And so just realizing that I'm really bad at guesstimating how long something will take me, I need to verbalize that and be realistic about it, so that the expectation I have in my head, or the expectation I have now put out there for my family, is actually going to be met, rather than setting myself up to fail and setting them up to fail. So awareness is key, right? Verbalizing it is also secondary to the important thing about being free from expectations. But I think looking at this idea of, if we're going to be free from expectations, right? What does that allow us, right? What's so great about managing our expectations differently? And the key, or the thing that I find primary in this, is that when we manage our expectations, when we're acutely aware of the expectations that we're placing on ourselves, on situations, on others, and we verbalize them so that there's an ability to manage them, make them realistic, that the freedom that allows is space, breath, a sense of being present. Because when we verbalize and are aware of our expectations, there's no longer this bar that we're jamming up against. There's no longer this judgment or the sense of shame or the sense of should, because we've removed it by managing a realistic expectation. And so all that noise, all that clutter that fills up our mind when we are in a place of great expectation goes away because we've managed it differently. And that creates amazing presence, amazing breath. This idea of why do we want freedom from it? It's so that we can be human. We can be flawed. We can be imperfect. And that is good. There is an author, speaker, Lysa Turkist, I believe is how you pronounce her name. And she talks about this idea of, I give grace freely because I so desperately need it. And I think about that when it comes to expectations, right? That I want to continue to strive to be free of expectations, to manage them differently, to verbalize them, to be aware of them. Because the more that I do that, the more I stay in a place of managing expectations and making them realistic and not having this quest for perfection. The more that I do that, the hope is that people will return the favor. I give grace freely because I so desperately need it. And I do desperately need it. I am flawed. I am imperfect, just like the rest of you. And that when I'm not in a place of expectation, when I'm not in a place of judgment, of right or wrong, of different just being different, when I'm managing the expectations I place on myself and others, then I can receive that same gift back. But if I am firmly heels dug in, rooted in expectation, demands, judgment, justice, fairness, right? If that's the place that my heels are dug in around, then that favor will not be returned to me, because the relationships that I grow with myself and with others will not be around a place of grace. So really, that is my challenge to all of you as you're listening today, of letting freedom ring, of releasing yourself from expectations, you really are giving yourself the gift of imperfection. You're allowing yourself to be human. And when you allow yourself to be human and others to be the same, there's so much more room to breathe. There's more room to fail. There's more room to struggle. And there's more room to grow. And so I encourage all of you that are listening today, what does it look like for you individually to be free from expectations? What gift does that give you? What gift of imperfection do you hand yourself with an open hand, right? Not a closed fist, but an open hand when you remove expectation. And I want to hear from you guys. Send in the gift. Send in what that looks like. You can do it via the SpeakPipe app or to Anna at Her Life Unscripted. I would love to hear. Because for me, it's an ongoing process. There is no perfection there, but there's a heck of a lot of learning that's happening. And so I encourage you guys to let me know what happens when you start managing and releasing yourself from expectation. Do you notice that the pursuit for perfection starts to be stripped away? And if it does, oh, beautiful, right? I think we're going to stop there because that seems like a natural resting place. But thank you so much for connecting today. And I cannot wait to hear what it's like for all of you when you find freedom from your expectations. Take care, you guys.
Want to learn about the latest retreats, workshops, and speaking events hosted by Anna? Head over to herlifeunscripted.com to get in on all the juicy details. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so we can continue to grow our amazing audience. Lastly, be sure and send in your voice feedback via the SpeakPipe app or to Anna at herlifeunscripted.com. We can't wait to hear from you.